What if everything you were ever taught about money was completely wrong? Not slightly off, not a little outdated, completely wrong. What if the very advice your parents gave you, your teachers gave you, and your entire school system trained you to believe was designed, whether intentionally or not, to keep you exactly where you are right now, working for someone else, trading your time for a paycheck, paying taxes first, bills second, and maybe saving whatever tiny amount is left over at the end of the month? Right now, there are millions of people who followed every rule they were told to follow. They studied hard, they got the degree, they landed the job, they bought the house. And right now, at 50 years old, they are just as financially stressed as they were at 25. Why? Because they were taught how to work for money, but nobody ever taught them how to make money work for them. That is the one sentence that changes everything. And today, we are going to break it all down for you. Every single lesson, every mindset shift, every practical strategy from one of the most important books ever written about money. This is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and this is your complete life-changing breakdown. Before we dive in, if this is your first time here, welcome to Millionaire Playbook. This is not a theory channel. This is not an inspiration channel. This is an implementation channel. Every single video we make is designed to give you real strategies, real frameworks, and real steps you can apply to your real life starting today. If that is what you are looking for, subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because what we are building here together is something most people only dream about. Let us get started. Part 1. The story behind the book. Two Dads, Two Worlds. Robert Kiyosaki grew up with two father figures. His biological father, who he calls his poor dad, was a highly educated man. He had a PhD. He went to Stanford, the University of Chicago, Northwestern University, all on full scholarships. He was brilliant by every academic standard society ever created. His rich dad was his best friend Mike's father. This man never finished the 8th grade. Here's what's fascinating. Both men worked hard their entire lives. Both earned decent incomes. But one died leaving tens of millions of dollars to his family, charities, and church. The other died leaving behind bills to be paid. Same country, same opportunity, completely different results. And Robert had a front row seat to both lives. His poor dad would say things like, "I cannot afford it." His rich dad banned those words entirely. He made his kids ask instead, "How can I afford it?" His poor dad said, "Study hard, get a good job." His rich dad said, "Study hard, find a good company to buy." His poor dad said, "Money is the root of all evil." His rich dad said, "The lack of money is the root of all evil." These are not just different opinions. These are two completely different operating systems for life. And the main difference was not intelligence. It was not education. It was not even effort. It was what each man believed about money and how they acted on those beliefs every single day. That is where this book begins, and that is where your transformation begins today. Part 2. Lesson 1. The rich do not work for money. When Robert was 9 years old, he went to his rich dad and said he wanted to learn how to get rich. Instead of sitting him down and giving him a lecture, Rich Dad gave him a job. He paid Robert and his friend Mike 10 cents an hour to dust off cans at one of his convenience stores. 10 cents an hour for 3 weeks. No raise, no explanation, no lessons. Robert was furious. He felt used. He felt exploited. He almost quit. And that was exactly the point. Rich Dad let Robert feel the frustration that 90% of the workforce feels every single day. That quiet desperation of working hard and feeling like you are getting nowhere. That constant anxiety of not having enough. That helplessness of depending on someone else to decide what you are worth. When Robert finally confronted him, Rich Dad explained the real lesson. He said most people spend their lives governed by two emotions when it comes to money: fear and greed.
They are afraid of not having money, so they go to work. They get their paycheck, and then greed kicks in. They see things they want. They spend. Then the money runs out, and fear drives them back to work again. Rich Dad called this the rat race, and the trap is elegant in its cruelty, because it never looks like a trap. It looks like responsibility. It looks like ambition. You get a better job, you get a raise, you buy a bigger house, a nicer car, take on more debt, and right now, at 50 years old, they are just as financially stressed as they were at 25. Why? Because they were taught how to work for money, but nobody ever taught them how to make money work for them. Part 3. Lesson 2. Why teach financial literacy? Rich Dad's second lesson is about financial literacy, and this is where Robert breaks down the concept that most people miss entirely. He tells the story of some of the most powerful businessmen in American history. In 1923, a group of the wealthiest and most influential men in the world gathered for a meeting. We're talking about the head of the largest steel company, the president of the New York Stock Exchange, titans of industry. 25 years later, most of them had died broke, had been imprisoned, or had taken their own lives. How does that happen? How do people earn millions and end up with nothing? Because they never understood the most important rule in building wealth. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And more importantly, how well you understand money. This is where Rich Dad introduced the single most important financial concept Robert ever learned. There are assets and there are liabilities, and the difference between the rich and everyone else is that the rich buy assets, while the poor and middle class buy liabilities while thinking they are buying assets. Here's the simple definition Rich Dad used. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. That's the whole rule. It sounds almost insultingly simple, but here's where it gets powerful. Look at the cash flow of a poor person. Income comes in from a job. It immediately flows out through rent, food, transportation, taxes. The asset column is empty. Now look at the middle class. Income comes in from a job. It flows out through mortgage payments, car payments, credit card payments, student loan payments. They have assets listed on paper, but the arrow is still going the wrong direction. Their house, their car, their credit cards, they are all taking money out of their pocket every month. Now look at the rich. Their income comes from rental properties, dividends, interest, royalties. It comes from the asset column. The asset column feeds the income column, and the cycle grows. Here's the mindset shift that will change everything for you. Most people think their house is their biggest asset. Rich Dad says your house is your biggest liability because every month it takes money out of your pocket, your mortgage, your taxes, your maintenance costs. A real asset would be something that generates income for you. That is the one realization alone is worth more than any financial advice you will find anywhere. The poor and middle class confuse things that look like wealth with things that actually generate wealth. They buy bigger homes, they buy nicer cars, they upgrade their lifestyle every time their income increases. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's one of the most dangerous financial traps in existence. The question to ask yourself right now is simple. Look at the things you have spent your money on over the last 5 years. Did they make you richer, or did they make you feel richer while actually making you poorer? Part 4. Mind your own business. This lesson is one of the most misunderstood ideas in the entire book. Robert says you need to mind your own business, but he's not talking about staying out of other people's affairs. He's saying that most people spend their entire careers building someone else's dream. They go to work for a company and they pour their best energy, their best hours, their best years into making that company profitable, into growing that asset column. But it's the company's asset column, not their own. Rich Dad's advice is to keep your day job if you need it, but start building your own asset column on the side. Your real business, your real job, is not your profession. It's building your personal asset column. So what does that asset column look like? Rich Dad defined it as a collection of things like businesses that do not require your constant presence: stocks, bonds, income-generating real estate, notes and royalties, and anything else that generates cash flow independently of your time. The key distinction here is that your profession pays your bills today, but your asset column buys your freedom tomorrow. Rich Dad used to say that each dollar in his asset column was like a great employee who worked hard every day to generate more wealth. While most people were focused on getting a raise, he was focused on hiring more of these dollar employees. The practical application here is straightforward. Start small. Start today. Every month, before you pay any bills, allocate some amount, no matter how small, to purchasing assets. A few shares of an index fund, a small stake in a business, a piece of real estate, something that generates a return without requiring your direct time. Build the habit first. The size of the contributions will grow as your financial intelligence grows. Part 5. Lesson 4. The history of taxes and the power of corporations. This lesson is where the game changes, and it is the lesson that most people never learn because nobody in the traditional educational system wants you to know it. Here is the history Rich Dad explained. Income taxes were originally created to tax the rich. They were sold to the working class as a tool of justice and fairness, but the rich fought back. And they did not fight with protests or politics, they fought with corporations. A corporation is simply a legal entity, a file folder with some documents. But that file folder changes everything about how money flows. Here is the fundamental difference between how employees and business owners experience money. An employee earns money, the government takes taxes, whatever is left is what the employee gets to spend. A business owner earns money through their corporation. The corporation spends on legitimate business expenses, then the government taxes whatever is left. Read that again slowly. The employee gets taxed before they can spend. The business owner spends before they get taxed. On a large income, that difference represents tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year. Corporations can pay for legitimate business expenses with pre-tax dollars: business travel, professional education, home office costs, equipment, even vehicles when legitimately used for business. All of this reduces the taxable income before the government gets its share. Rich Dad developed what he called financial IQ through 4 areas. First, accounting, the ability to read and understand financial statements. Second, investing, the science of making money make money. Third, understanding markets, knowing supply, demand, and economic conditions. Fourth, the law, understanding how legal structures like corporations and trusts protect wealth and minimize taxes. He would say, and this is important, that knowledge of the law is not about doing anything illegal. It is about using the rules that already exist, the rules that the wealthy use every day, rules that are available to anyone who takes the time to learn them. This is why Rich Dad said, and this sentence stopped Robert cold when he first heard it, "Why climb the corporate ladder when you can own the ladder?" Part 6. Lesson 5. The rich invent money. This is perhaps the most powerful and the most misunderstood lesson in the entire book. Robert opens this chapter with the story of Alexander Graham Bell. Bell had just invented the telephone. He went to Western Union, the largest communications company at the time, and offered him his entire patent and company for $100,000. Western Union turned him down, called the price ridiculous. The rest is history. Rich Dad used this story to illustrate a critical truth. In the real world, it is not always the smartest people who get ahead. It is often the boldest. The rich do not sit around waiting for a good deal to appear. They create opportunities. They use their financial intelligence to see value where others see nothing. Robert gives examples from his own investing life. He would find distressed properties, negotiate creative terms, structure deals using borrowed money, generate cash flow, and recycle that capital into the next deal. He bought a piece of land for $9,000 and sold it almost immediately for $25,000. He was not using special knowledge that was unavailable to anyone else. He was simply trained to see opportunities that others walked right past. Here is the practical framework Rich Dad taught for creative investing. First, find a deal where the numbers work, not where they might work, where they actually work, where the cash flow or the appreciation or the arbitrage opportunity is clear and measurable. Second, get creative with financing. Most people think you need money to make money. The rich know you need deals, relationships, and creativity. You can use other people's money, seller financing, partnerships, and leveraged structures to invest with little or none of your own capital. Third, understand when to pull the trigger. Analysis paralysis kills more financial dreams than bad investments ever did. The rich analyze quickly, decide decisively, and move forward. Fourth, continually expand your financial intelligence. Every deal teaches you something. Every mistake is data. The rich stay in the game, they learn, and they compound that learning over time. The fundamental mindset shift here is this. Ordinary people see a price tag. Wealthy people see an opportunity. Ordinary people ask, can I afford this? Wealthy people ask, how can I structure this to make it work? Part 7. Lesson 6. Work to learn, not just to earn. This lesson hit Robert harder than any other, and it will hit you hard too if you let it sink in. Rich Dad said that the problem with most people is not that they lack talent. Most people are genuinely talented. They're smart, hardworking, and dedicated. The problem is that they're too specialized. They spend their entire lives becoming incredibly good at one thing, and when that one thing is no longer needed, or when the company downsizes, or when the industry changes, they have nothing to fall back on. Rich Dad recommended a radically different approach. Choose your jobs for what you will learn, not just for what you will earn. Robert himself worked at Xerox not because it was his dream job, but because he knew the sales training would be extraordinary. He pushed himself into roles that scared him. He put himself in situations that stretched his skill set. He was building a toolkit, not a resume. Rich Dad believed that truly rich people need to be competent across multiple domains. They need to understand money and investing. They need to understand sales and marketing. They need to understand management and leadership. They need to understand law and accounting at a basic level. They need to understand negotiation and communication. Notice something. You do not need to be an expert in all of these areas. You need to be competent. You need to understand enough to lead people who are experts. That's a crucial distinction. The most dangerous financial trap is being brilliant in one narrow area and ignorant in everything that surrounds it. You can be the best engineer in the world, but if you can't sell your ideas, manage your income, protect your assets, or invest your savings intelligently, your engineering skill will only ever make someone else wealthy. The action step from this lesson is simple. Identify the skills that would multiply your financial power if you had them. Then go get them. Take a course on investing, read a book on marketing, work a sales role even if it makes you uncomfortable, attend a real estate seminar. Build the complete toolkit that the wealthy operate with. Part 8. Overcoming the 5 biggest obstacles that stop most people from building wealth, even when they understand the principles. Let's break each one down. Obstacle 1. Fear. The fear of losing money keeps most people from ever investing at all. They'd rather earn nothing and lose nothing than risk losing anything. But Rich Dad said this clearly. Failure is part of the process of winning. The question is not whether you will lose sometimes. The question is what losing teaches you and how fast you get back in the game. Winners use failure as information. Losers use failure as a reason to stop. Obstacle 2. Cynicism. The voice in your head and the voices around you that say, "That'll never work," or "What makes you think you can do that?" or "The economy is terrible right now." Rich Dad called this the Chicken Little syndrome. The sky is always falling for cynics. And the problem is that cynicism masquerades as wisdom. But Rich Dad made the distinction clearly. Cynics criticize, winners analyze. The cynic closes his eyes to opportunity. The analyst opens them. Obstacle 3. Laziness. The most financially lazy people are often the busiest people. They stay busy on purpose. Busy at work, busy with kids, busy with everything except the one thing that would actually change their financial future. Rich Dad's antidote to laziness was what he called a little greed. Not destructive greed, but healthy desire. Ask yourself, what would my life look like if I never had to worry about money again? Let that vision pull you forward. Let desire become motivation. Obstacle 4. Bad habits. Most people pay everyone else first and themselves last. They pay the mortgage, the car payment, the credit cards, the utilities, and if there's anything left, maybe they save a little. Rich Dad said flip this completely. Pay yourself first. Every single month, before any bill is paid, a portion of your income goes into your asset column, non-negotiable. This single habit, practiced consistently, is the foundation of every fortune ever built. Obstacle 5. Arrogance. Rich Dad said that what you don't know is what costs you the most.
People who pretend to know more than they do lose money constantly. They're too proud to ask for help, too proud to admit ignorance, too proud to keep learning. The cure for arrogance is simple. When you do not know something, find an expert, find a book, find a mentor. Knowledge is always cheaper than ignorance. Part 9. Getting Started. 10 Steps to Awaken Your Financial Genius. Rich Dad gave Robert a 10-step process to activate your financial intelligence. Let us go through the most essential ones. Step 1. Find a reason greater than reality. This is your why, not a vague, I want to be rich kind of why. A deep, emotional, almost painful why. For Robert, it was, I do not want to spend my life working for someone else. I do not want to worry about money every month. I want the freedom to live on my own terms. What is your reason? Write it down. Keep it somewhere you see it every day. Step 2. Make daily choices. Every day you make choices that move you toward financial freedom or away from it. Choose to learn something new about money. Choose to invest before you spend. Choose to read a financial book instead of watching an hour of television. The compound effect of daily choices is staggering over time. Step 3. Choose your friends carefully. This is not about being elitist. It's about recognizing that your environment shapes your thinking. If you spend all your time with people who believe wealth is only for lucky people, you'll start believing it too. Seek out people who are doing what you want to do. Ask questions. Learn from their experience. Step 4. Master one formula, then learn a new one. Don't try to learn everything at once. Pick one investment vehicle, real estate, stocks, a small business. Learn it deeply. Master it completely. Then expand. Depth before breadth. Step 5. Pay yourself first. Before your landlord, before the government, before any creditor, you pay your asset column. This is not selfishness. This is financial discipline. It's the foundation of long-term wealth. Step 6. Pay good advisors well. The rich surround themselves with smart lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, and brokers. They pay them well because the advice they get back is worth far more than the cost. Poor people try to save money by avoiding professional advice. Then they make expensive mistakes that cost them many times more than the advice would have. Invest in your team. Step 7. Be an Indian giver with your money. This means always ask the question, how fast do I get my money back?
The sophisticated investor's primary concern is return of investment, not just return on investment. When you can pull your initial capital back out while still holding the asset, you are playing with the house's money. That's how you compound wealth at an accelerating rate. Step 8. Use assets to buy luxuries. If you want a nice car, don't buy it with your salary. Buy an asset that generates income and use that income to buy the car. If you want a vacation, build an investment that funds it. This single discipline separates those who look wealthy from those who actually are. Part 10. 3 types of income and the key to financial freedom. Rich Dad closed his teaching with what he called the most important financial distinction most people never learn. There are 3 types of income. Type 1. Ordinary earned income. This is what you get from your job, trading your time for money. It's taxed at the highest rate, and it requires your constant presence to keep flowing. Type 2. Portfolio income. This comes from paper assets, stocks, bonds, funds. You invest capital, the investment grows, and the growth produces income. Bill Gates became the richest man in the world not through earned income, but through portfolio income from the stock he owned in Microsoft. Type 3. Passive income. This is income that flows from real assets like rental properties or businesses you own but do not actively run. In most cases, it's taxed at a significantly lower rate than earned income. Here's the key. The goal of the financial journey is to convert as much of your earned income into passive and portfolio income as quickly as possible. When your passive income and portfolio income exceed your monthly expenses, you are financially free. You no longer have to work to survive. You work because you choose to, because you enjoy it, because it matters to you, not because the mortgage is due on the 1st. Rich Dad said, the key to becoming wealthy is the ability to convert earned income into passive or portfolio income as quickly as possible. That's your North Star. Every financial decision you make should be evaluated against that single objective. Part 11. The mindset shifts that make everything else possible. Before we close, let's crystallize the core mindset transformations from this book. Shift 1. From employee mentality to investor mentality. Stop thinking of yourself as someone who earns money. Start thinking of yourself as someone who deploys capital. Shift 2. From I can't afford it to how can I afford it? One sentence closes your brain, the other opens it. The quality of your financial life is directly proportional to the quality of your financial questions. Shift 3. From consuming assets to building assets. Every financial decision you make either adds to your asset column or subtracts from it. Train yourself to see every purchase through that lens. Shift 4. From avoiding failure to learning from it. The road to financial freedom runs directly through multiple mistakes. The people who never make mistakes never make fortunes. Take calculated risks, learn, adjust, grow. Shift 5. From financial ignorance to continuous financial education. Rich Dad never stopped learning. He read constantly. He sought out mentors. He studied markets. He analyzed deals. He treated his financial intelligence like a muscle that needed to be exercised every single day. Let's bring it all together. Robert Kiyosaki had 2 fathers. One told him to work hard, get a good job, pay his taxes, and save whatever was left. The other told him to build assets, understand money, use legal structures to protect wealth, and let his money work so he would not have to. One left behind bills, the other left behind a legacy. The 6 lessons of this book are not complicated. The rich do not work for money. Money works for them. Financial literacy, knowing the difference between assets and liabilities, is the foundation of wealth. Your real business is not your job, it's building your asset column. Understanding taxes and corporate structures gives the wealthy a legal and powerful advantage. The rich create opportunities instead of waiting for them, and the truly successful work to learn, not just to earn. These lessons are not reserved for people born into wealth. They're not reserved for people with advanced degrees or special connections. They're available to anyone willing to change how they think about money. The question is not whether this knowledge can change your life. The question is whether you will apply it. Start today, not next week, not when you have more money, today. Read one page of a financial book. Open a brokerage account. Research one investment. Have one conversation with someone who knows more about money than you do. Take one small step toward building your asset column. The journey to financial freedom is long, but every single person who is financially free today was once exactly where you are right now, standing at the beginning of the road, wondering if it was possible. It is possible. This book is proof of that. Thank you for watching Millionaire Playbook. If this video gave you something real, something you can actually use, then please like it and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Subscribe so you never miss the kind of content that actually changes how you think and how you live. The next chapter of your financial life starts right now. Take the first step.